Investigators in Hong Kong have now launched a criminal probe into one of the city's deadliest residential disasters, the fire at Wang Fuk Court in Tapo, which claimed about 160 lives. The blaze erupted on 26th of November during a major renovation project. The firm awarded HK $330 million contract. Prestige Construction, an engineering company, was presented to residents by consultant Willpower Architects as having a spotless safety record, a claim which has now been proven false. Records show that between 2016 and 2019, Prestige was repeatedly penalized for scaffolding violations, faulty electrical work, and other safety breaches. Meanwhile, residents had raised repeated warnings: workers smoking on site, use of flammable foam boards, non-compliant scaffolding mesh. Their calls for cancelling the contract failed. First blocked by the previous homeowners committee, then dismissed under legal liability fears when a resident-led board took over. Investigators say that defective mesh and foam likely fueled the rapid spread of fire. Several persons tied to both Prestige and Willpower have now been arrested under suspicion of manslaughter and corruption, although formal charges are still pending. The tragedy has unleashed anger and grief across Hong Kong, raising serious questions about enforcement of safety standards, contract vetting, and government oversight of renovation work. Authorities now face intense pressure to ensure accountability and prevent a repeat disaster. Moving on now, a major Russian drone and missile barrage struck a railway hub near Kyiv, damaging a depot and multiple rail cars in the town of Fasti. No casualties have been reported so far, but several suburban trains around Kyiv and Chernihiv had to be cancelled. The attack is a part of Russia's intensifying campaign against energy and transport infra, with Ukrainian officials saying that Moscow is now systematically targeting power plants, heating systems and railway networks. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Adnan Sami accused Israel of disregarding all peace efforts and urged allies to accelerate military and economic support. Ukraine says Russia has fired 653 drones and 51 missiles overnight, with air defense intercepting most of them, but significant damage was still reported from various areas of Chernihiv, Lviv, Odessa, among others. Thousands remain without heat, water, and emergency repairs team working through blackout zones. Meanwhile, Poland scrambled fighter jets amid the wave of strikes, but confirmed that its airspace was not violated. The Russian Defense Ministry claims that the attack were aimed at military, industrial, and energy targets using long-range drones and hypersonic missiles. A former Pentagon official, Michael Rubin, said that Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to India was extremely positive from Moscow's perspective and credited Donald Trump, the US president, for driving India and Russia closer. Rubin said that honors India extended to Putin were unmatched anywhere and claimed that Trump's role in shaping that dynamic should not be overlooked. Mockingly, he even argued that the man who deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for Putin's warm welcome in New Delhi is not Putin, but Donald Trump. Rubin said that many in Washington remain shocked at how Trump undercut strategic alignment with India, calling it a disastrous misstep that will leave the United States facing long-term strategic disadvantages.
It's being perceived in two different ways. If you're Donald Trump, it's being perceived through the lens of, I told you so. That this embrace of India towards Russia is affirming what Donald Trump wants his spin to be. Because Donald Trump isn't going to admit that he is the one at fault. Now, if you're the 65% of Americans who dislike Donald Trump, according to the recent polls, then what we are seeing now is the result of Donald Trump's gross incompetence. There's a lamenting that the United States-India partnership, which has built over 25 years, is being shredded by a senile incompetent in the White House.
And United States President Donald Trump has now been awarded FIFA's newly created Peace Prize at the draw for the 2026 Men's Football World Cup. FIFA President Gianni Infantino handed him the award at an award ceremony held in Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Trump, who has campaigned aggressively for a Nobel Peace Prize, thanked FIFA on Friday and called the award one of the great honors of his life.
Well, thank you very much. This is truly one of the great honors of my life. And beyond awards, Johnny and I were discussing this. We saved millions and millions of lives. The Congo, as an example, over 10 million people killed, and it was heading for another 10 million very quickly. And it just, you know, the fact that we could do that, India, Pakistan, so many different wars that we're able to end, in some cases a little bit before they started, just right before they started. It was going to be late, but we got them done, and it's such an honor to be with Johnny. I've known Johnny for so long. He's done such an incredible job, and I have to tell you, you've set new records on ticket sales, and not to bring that up, because we don't want to bring a thing like that up right now, but it's an awfully nice tribute to you and to the game of football, or as we call it, soccer, but football, and that is an amazing thing. The numbers are beyond any numbers that anybody, even beyond what Johnny thought was possible. I want to thank, by the way, my family, my great First Lady, Melania. You're right here, and thank you very much.
Days before a truly historic occasion.
Moving on now, the United States wants Europe to take over majority of NATO's conventional defense capabilities, from intelligence to missiles, by 2027. This is what Pentagon officials told diplomats in Washington this week. This tight deadline has struck some European officials as unrealistic. The message was conveyed at a meeting in Washington this week with Pentagon staff overseeing NATO policy and several European delegations. The shifting of this burden from the US to European members of NATO would dramatically change how the United States, a founding member of the post-war alliance, works with its most important military partners. In the meantime, Pentagon officials indicated that Washington was not yet satisfied with the strides Europe has made to boost its defense capabilities since Russia's expanded invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The US officials told their counterparts that if Europe does not meet the 2027 deadline, the US may stop participating in some NATO defense coordination mechanism, according to sources. Moving on now, Pakistan's military has launched a stunning public assault on former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The army has labelled him, and I quote, mentally ill, and has also accused him of spreading anti-army narrative that poses a direct threat to national security in Pakistan. In an unusually blunt statement, Lieutenant General Ahmad Sharif Chaudhry of Pakistani Army warned that Khan's actions, even from custody, are undermining the armed forces and straining the country's fragile institutional balance. Lieutenant General Chaudhry singled out Imran Khan's social media posts as evidence of a deliberate campaign to turn citizens against the army, insisting that no political leader will be allowed to politicize the Pakistani army and military. But in reality, Imran Khan's X account has been withheld. But Chaudhry described Khan as an individual driven by personal ambition, claiming he thinks that without him there is nothing, and called his rhetoric a serious threat to Pakistan's national security. The military also questioned how Khan, while being incarcerated, continues to meet people and shape anti-state narratives. And this comes after recent statement of Imran Khan calling Asim Munir mentally unstable. The former Prime Minister also alleged that there is no rule of law or constitution in Pakistan. Instead, it is under the rule of Asim. He also branded Asim Munir as the most tyrannical dictator in history. According to a PTI statement, Imran Khan even said that the level of oppression during his tenure in jail is unparalleled and Asim Munir is capable of doing anything to satisfy his lust for power. Meanwhile, Imran Khan's sister, who visited him in the jail, claimed that her brother is being subjected to mental torture. This is yet another flashpoint in Asim Munir's government versus Imran Khan, who's currently lodged in jail. And more details, of course, are awaited. And Pakistan and Afghanistan are also once again trading fire across their tense border just days after the peace talks eventually and finally collapsed. Officials on both sides confirm heavy cross-border firing late on Friday, but so far no casualties have been reported. The war of words is also equally intense. Afghan Taliban spokesperson has alleged that Pakistan fired first, targeting Spin Boldak region in Kandahar. Islamabad countered that Afghan forces triggered the clash, calling it unprovoked firing along the Chaman frontier. Pakistan's PMO spokesperson said that the country remains vigilant and fully committed to defending its territorial sovereignty. The escalation comes barely 48 hours after talks in Saudi Arabia, the latest in a series of attempts that earlier took place in Qatar and Turkey, but ended with no breakthrough, only a fragile ceasefire reaffirmed. At the core of the dispute, Pakistan blames militant operating from Afghan soil for recent deadly attacks in Pakistan, including suicide bombings. Kabul has rejected these claims, insisting it cannot be held responsible for Pakistan's internal security issues. For now, the ceasefire stands even as both sides continue to trade fire. Big news of development in West Asia and a stunning twist inside a fractured Assad empire. An investigation has now revealed that Assad exiled spy chief Kamal Hassan, along with billionaire cousin Ramil Makhlov, is now plotting armed uprising from Russia years after fleeing Syria. Both men are said to be pouring millions of dollars into building rival militias, aiming to spark new revolts along Syria's coast and claw back lost power. The reports say that Hassan and Makhlov are competing for control of 14 secret underground command rooms stocked with weapons and ammunition, reportedly constructed in the final days of Assad's dictatorship. Sources say that Assad himself has accepted life in Moscow after escaping last December, but his old guard has not. Powerful figures from the inner circle, including Assad's brother, are funding more than 50,000 fighters across Syria and parts of Lebanon, mainly from Alawite community. And in response, Syria's new government has also deployed another Assad-era insider, who's a childhood friend of new president, to neutralize the plotters. Analysts warn that this battle is likely to continue as the exiled kingmakers, money and militias struggle for power far away from Syria. Taiwan and Japan have now expressed concern over a large-scale Chinese military presence in East Asian waters. According to recent reports, China has deployed more than 100 naval and coast guard vessels, marking its biggest maritime show of force to date. Taiwanese presidential spokesperson Karen Kuo described the deployment as a threat to Indo-Pacific region and called on China to exercise restraint. Meanwhile, Taiwan President Lai Ching-te has directed security forces to maintain full situational awareness and provide timely updates. Taiwan is also coordinating with unspecified friendly partners to safeguard regional peace and stability. In Tokyo, Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi said that Japan is monitoring Chinese movements closely and analyzing information with great attention while declining to comment on specific deployments.
China has been expanding and intensifying its military activities around Japan. While we maintain a high level of vigilance regarding China's military movements and continuously gather and analyze information, we refrain from commenting on each specific case.
Sources note that Chinese military activity in November and December is unusually high, but this week's operations exceed last year's mass deployment. The surge comes amid rising tensions between China, Japan and Taiwan following announcements of increased Taiwanese defense spending and statements by Japanese leaders about potential response to a Chinese attack on Taiwan. A new report now warns that global race for advanced weapons is threatening efforts to combat climate change. Critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt, graphite and rare earths element, which are essential for solar panels, wind turbines and electric vehicles, are increasingly being stockpiled for military use instead of supporting renewable energy projects. The new study, which is conducted by the US-UK Transition Security Project, highlights how the Pentagon is using its trillion-dollar budget to secure billions of dollars worth of these minerals for modern military hardware, including AI-driven autonomous weapons and precision-guided systems. Experts say that these resources could instead power large-scale energy storage or electric transportation, which is going to help in advancing clean energy transition. The report also reveals that Pentagon has invested directly in mining initiatives, giving the military control over critical minerals and influencing global supply chains. Analysts warn that prioritizing defense over climate solution could undermine global efforts to cut emission and accelerate decarbonization. And Sri Lanka is now struggling to recover from deadly floods triggered by Cyclone Ditwa. Thousands of families have lost their homes. Many are still searching for missing loved ones. Among them are 59-year-old Vasanta Kumari Ratnayake and 48-year-old Prasanna Shanta Kumara, who are now trying to rebuild their lives after losing nearly everything.
Sifting through her waterlogged belongings, Vasanta Kumari Ratnayake is doing her best to rebuild. On Monday, the 59-year-old and her husband were forced to flee from their home in Kotmale as water levels in the nearby Mahaweli River rose to dangerous levels.
When I came home from work at around 5 p.m., the water level of the river was very high. An aunt of mine called me and told me not to stay at home and to go to my parents' house. There was no electricity, but I regularly looked around with a torch. At one point, the river had reached the garden of the neighbor's house. Water began to gush into the house, and I told my husband, "We can't stay here. Let's leave."
They returned days later to a home wrecked by muddy water, littered with piles of debris. Ratnayake's friends and family have come together to help with the cleanup.
We built up our lives with the greatest difficulty. Now we will have to start all over again from zero.
In the village of Kitubada, 48-year-old Prasanna Shanta Kumara points at a huge crack in his house that he says was caused by the floods.
This is what I want to show. Up till today, no one has come even to see what has happened to us. Up till now, no one has come to see what kind of damage has happened to our homes.
The Sri Lankan government says a total of 1,289 houses across the country were destroyed by Cyclone Ditwa, while 44,500 more are damaged. It also says it is collecting data to provide long-term solutions to those living in high-risk areas.
And catastrophic floods and landslides across Indonesia and wider Sumatra have triggered painful memories of the 2004 tsunami. Torrential rains and cyclone-driven storms have devastated entire region, killing more than 800 people across Indonesia, including 200 in the Aceh alone.
Rumah berarti empat. Yan, je. Yan lampu mandu mau. Dari rumah lama ini. Tidak mari ada lampu. Kondisi dalam dia.
Ini rumah bantuan tsunami, Pak.
Trauma sekali kami sudah mengalami waktu tsunami. Waktu tsunami itu aku lihat ombaknya paling tinggi ada sekitar 20 meter lah ke atas. Waktu tsunami, tapi lebih dahsyat ini lagi. Ini dari Kuala Kertau sampai Kuala Cangkul dapat sungai ada 17 titik. Kampung sudah.
And moving on now, a major shake-up in the global entertainment. Netflix has struck a $72 billion deal to acquire Warner Brothers in what insiders call one of Hollywood's biggest deals of the decade. According to exclusive details shared with various media companies, the process began as a simple fact-finding mission but escalated quickly once Warner Brothers Discovery launched an auction on 21st of October. The studio had already rejected 3 unsolicited offers from Paramount and Skydance. Netflix saw a strategic opportunity, not just with Warner Brothers' vast library, which drives more streaming viewership, but also its theatrical distribution arm, its century-old studio, and the potential to accelerate HBO Max's growth using Netflix's streaming expertise. Competition was furious. Paramount raised its bid to $78 billion, while Comcast proposed a mega merger that would rival Disney. But Warner Brothers board had concerns around financing and long-time timelines as far as the deal is concerned. And behind the scenes, Netflix and its advisors held daily calls, even through Thanksgiving, to build a binding proposal by 1st of December deadline. Warner Brothers board also met every day for a week. What sealed the deal was Netflix's confidence. It offered one of the largest breakup fee in mergers and acquisition history, which is $5.8 billion, signaling that it believes regulators would approve the acquisition. And late Thursday night, Netflix learned that its offer had been accepted, a moment that was greeted by cheers from executives who believed that their chances were only 50-50. This acquisition is set to reshape Hollywood, bringing a legendary studio directly under the country and control of the world's biggest streaming platform. But the Netflix-Warner Brothers deal now faces serious hurdles. Antitrust concerns and growing pushback from the theatre industry are also expected to trigger intense scrutiny from the US Department of Justice. The Directors Guild of America and Cinema United have publicly opposed the merger, warning that Netflix could shrink the theatrical to streaming window and harm movie theaters. The deal must still secure approvals in the United States, the European Union, and several other key markets before it can officially close.